Hi, welcome to our video. For your information, this video will be covering chapter 4, which is market equilibrium. Before that, let me introduce my group members. That's all my group members. Now, let me continue with chapter 4, which is market equilibrium. First and foremost, what is market equilibrium? Market equilibrium is the quantity which producers are willing to produce is equal to the quantity consumers willing and able to purchase, and there is no tendency for a price and quantity to change. From our understanding, market equilibrium exists when quantity demand is equal to quantity supply. Now that we know how to determine of equilibrium price and quantity from demand and supply schedule. From what we can see, when quantity demand is equal to quantity supply, the price at the column will be equilibrium price. So, for this demand and supply schedule, the equilibrium price is RM3. It is because the quantity supply and quantity demand are same, which is 7,000. Now, let me continue how to determine of equilibrium price and quantity from demand and supply curve. From what we can see, the intersection of supply and demand curve we make the equilibrium point, and from that we can get the equilibrium price and quantity by extend the equilibrium point to axis y and axis x. So we can get the equilibrium price and quantity from that.
Price fluctuation. It has two subtopics, which is disequilibrium and changes in demand and supply. Surplus happen when supply exceeds demand. At higher price, producer is willing to sell than the customer willing to purchase. Quantity supply is greater than the quantity demand. Shortage happen when demand exceeds supply. At lower price, consumer is willing to purchase more than producer is willing to sell. Quantity demand is greater than quantity supply. Increase in demand. With the increase in demand curve shift rightward. The new equilibrium point is P prime Q prime. It will result in rise in prices and increase in quantity demanded. Next is increase in supply. With the increase in supply curve shift rightward. The new equilibrium point is P prime Q prime. It will result in fall in prices and increase in quantity demanded. The last one is increase in demand and supply. With the simultaneous increase in demand and supply curve shift rightward. The new equilibrium point is P2Q2. Here, it will result in rise in price P1 and increase in quantity demanded.
Next, let's proceed to government intervention in the market, which is maximum price and minimum price. Maximum price. Maximum price refers to the maximum price set by the government, which is set below the equilibrium price to prevent producers from raising the price above it. Maximum price is set below equilibrium price and there would be shortage of goods and services. Maximum price is set to protect consumers, usually during food shortages, to ensure low-cost food for the poor. For example, from the diagram, the market price of 1 kg chicken at 8 ringgit. When the government set the maximum price at 7 ringgit, the sellers must sell 1 kg of chicken at 7 ringgit and not at 8 ringgit. When the maximum price is below the market price, there would be a shortage of chickens. So, the shortage is 4 kg of chicken. The advantages when the government set the maximum price is: number 1, it will benefit the consumers since they are able to enjoy goods and services at cheaper prices. Number 2, the government set a maximum price to prevent the market price from rising after a certain level, as this could harm consumers, especially for the poor. For example, during festive seasons, war and inflation, the government might set the maximum price so that the poor can afford to buy goods and services in the market. The disadvantages of maximum price is: number 1, the existence of black market and illegal markets. Producers might smuggle goods to other neighboring countries since it is unprofitable to sell those goods locally. Number 2, it creates serious shortages since the producers might cut production due to lower profit. Number 3, producers might engage in legal activities such as bribery, corruption and hoarding of goods. Hoarding of goods creates artificial shortages, and it is done by producers to force the government to increase the prices of the goods. The second intervention of government in the market is minimum price. Minimum price refers to the minimum price fixed by the government to prevent prices from falling below the legal minimum level. Minimum level is set below the equilibrium price and there would be surplus of goods and services. Minimum price is set to protect producers, especially for the farmers, to engage in the agriculture sectors. For example, the market price for 1 kg of banana is 10 ringgit. When the government fixed the minimum price at 15 ringgit per kg, the sellers cannot sell 1 kg of banana lower than 15 ringgit. So, the surplus occurred amounted 10 kg of banana. The advantages of minimum price is: number 1, the income of producers or farmers is protected. This can be seen when the crops are less produced due to climatic conditions. Furthermore, the price of crops is also subject to price fluctuations. So, when the government set the minimum price, it can protect the farmers' income and increase their standard of living. Number 2, minimum price also can prevent prices from becoming too low in the free market. Number 3, the government may store or keep the surplus of agriculture produce for future consumption. For example, the government may keep the surplus of banana for future use if there is any shortage. The disadvantages of minimum price. Number 1, it is unfair for the consumers since they have to pay more to buy the goods and services. Number 2, minimum price would lead to wastage of resources because of surplus created in the economy. These surplus are either kept as stock or disposed through dumping. The concept of minimum wage could lead to the problem of unemployment, especially for the local workers.
Tax and subsidy. The government imposes two types of taxes in our country as follows: direct tax and indirect tax. Direct tax is a tax levied by the government directly to a person who cannot shift the burden of paying the tax to others. An example of direct tax is income tax. Meanwhile, indirect tax is imposed by the government on producers and they can and might shift or pass the burden of paying the tax to consumers. The examples of indirect tax are sales tax, service tax, import duties, and export duties. This figure shows the effects of indirect tax on price and quantity. The supply reduces and shifts leftwards as the production costs increase. The price increase from Rm16 ringgit to Rm18 ringgit and the quantity reduced from 6 units to 4 units. Both producers and consumers pay the indirect tax together. When demand is less elastic than supply, shows that the consumers are liable to more tax burden compared to producers. Since consumers are not sensitive towards price changes, they are willing to pay more for goods and services. On the other hand, when demand more elastic than supply, consumers are sensitive towards price and changes and would cut their consumption of goods and services as price increase. Thus, to avoid losses, producers are willing to pay more tax. In addition, when demand is perfectly elastic, producers pay the entire tax. Conversely, when perfectly inelastic demand, consumers are liable for the entire tax. Furthermore, perfectly elastic supply means that consumers pay off tax imposed by the government. In contrast, perfectly inelastic supply reflects that producers pay the entire tax. Next, subsidy. This figure shows the effects of subsidy on price and quantity. The supply will increase and the supply curve will shift rightwards. The price will fall and the quantity will increase. The subsidy is shared equally between the consumers and producers. Moreover, when demand is less elastic than supply, consumers receive more benefit of subsidy. Lastly, when demand is more elastic than supply, producer receive more benefit of subsidy. So that's all from us. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you guys enjoy this video and gain some information.